Hey guys, this is Simon from Fateless. This is going to be another Fateless video where we talk about the game design and what we're doing right now. Today I'm going to take you through a little journey of art concepting for environments. And you might get some sneak peeks in this video in terms of some of the different game modes that we're going to do because, yeah, we're going to drop a load of stuff that I'm probably not supposed to show you guys yet. But just figured I'd change things up a little bit from like character design and start to show you some of the different environments that they're going to live in and play in. Now, I will say we're kind of still in the throes of mixing it up when it comes to the combat within the game. And we're actually testing a whole bunch of different things. So even though you're going to see a viewpoint here in our designs, it doesn't necessarily mean this is how it's going to live in game. That's just something to call out. But let's start then. Let's get into the first of the sections, the Avalon environment that we're building here. And Edu does a lot of our environmental kind of like concepting, takes it through to kind of like final concept, and then the 3D team come in and start to make it happen. So we're going to show you some concepting first, and then we're going to get into some of the 3D stuff towards the end of the video. So yeah, here we go. Avalon, you could kind of see some of the calls to, I guess, calls to the mythology within this, some of the different sort of 3D assets that we're going to be building to bring the different environments to life. And we kind of see some of the color blockouts as well in terms of how do we want it to feel when you're in this almost like Celtic type of environment. And yeah, you know, basically you're working your way through this area of campaign. With all of our levels, we've actually got this Lego block system where basically it will feel like you're playing different levels consistently throughout the game rather than playing the same level over and over again 100 times before you then move on to the next one. So a lot of our assets are basically going to be popping up in different locations just so it feels like you're working your way through, you know, the kind of lore of the game as you work your way through campaign. And obviously we'll be using these assets in boss environments and stuff like that as well. So the Avalon is the first one I'm showing you there. We're then going to move on to the Kiki environment, and we got some cool stuff here. So let me show you what Edu has been doing here. So actually some of the background buildings and stuff like that is stuff that our intern Nico, who is actually getting a full-term employment at the end of this internship because he's just been phenomenal in terms of his work output so far. So he's been creating some of the assets you see in the background, and he's also going to be going on to doing some of our character art. We didn't see it, actually Dan did a cool interview where he kind of talked through that process, so we'll link that at the end if you guys want to go and check through who Nico is, what he does, you know, some of his kind of other work that he's done. But that was actually really cool to see some of the stuff that he's done. So yeah, Kojiki assets here. Again, don't take too much store of the visual of the character setup. It's literally just us plonking characters on the screen to make sure we're happy with how it looks. You can see some of the kind of like lava and volcanoes in the background, so you can kind of get a feel for what the style, I guess, of this environment would feel like. And then you sort of see this realm of, you know, maybe the boss encounter, how that could feel, and obviously change it up. It's more like a sparring area. We're also thinking about having more, I guess, rather than just the sort of, here's a train track sort of style, you go from one level to the next. We're also thinking about having a different feel to that as well. And that's something we're playing around with right now in terms of our design templates. You can see the kind of different Lego blocks in this example pieced together into one. And we could actually basically lift a Lego block completely out and change it completely. So that's the kind of like Lego block concept that I was speaking about before. You can kind of just see it again from another angle. So this is almost like a rework of the same assets, but used in a different way. So you can see how that starts to make sense when you're basically building environments on the fly. Okay, now we get to the Asgard level. Damn, this one's super cool. So what we're trying to do here is make sure there's a real point of difference between this one and others. Bifrost Way. You might be able to guess who might walk down this one. We've got these kind of like, yeah, these Norse style, I guess, tells on the totems. It's like an endless column. So you can kind of just see it going through the bridge as well. And yeah, some cool kind of engravings just to kind of give that tell to the different mythologies that we're talking about here. You start to get the different kind of like visual in terms of sizing and different coloring here. So, you what could we do with this in terms of visual? I really like this one, honestly. The bridge just kind of like coming off by itself. And then, we're just getting these kind of like points around, right, well, what should these different elements look like? There's so much detail that goes into all of these assets, more than you'd ever realize, honestly. You kind of got this visual of what the entrance could look like down here in the bottom left. Again, just kind of like some more kind of like line style drawings of how it could feel. But yeah, super, super good. Then we go into like the more detailed imagery of, why are we choosing these different elements? And yeah, what type of references can the 3D guys use when they start to pull this together? So this is specifically something that Nico is doing in 3D. We then look at, so how could we piece these different like levels together? And this is where I was saying that we don't necessarily just want it to be a straight rail track, straight line. We always walk in a straight line. So, kind of come into this platform and work your way through a level in a slightly different way. But making sure that anything that we put in there is super detailed and relevant in terms of like the theme of the environments. Again, super good work. Like the artistic quality of this team is just off the charts in terms of just making sure the 3D guys know exactly what they're looking at, know the different materials they're going to be using or trying to create. And yeah, super good work. I think Asgard's going to be really sweet. You've got these totems here. Actually, one of the things which came back was, am I making this look too phallic? So we had to make adjustments to that. But really, really cool. Like just these kind of like points of difference when you're building your environments. I think our environments are going to look super sweet. So yeah, that's the Norse one. Let's move on to maybe more like a boss environment here. So and this one's not finished yet. We're still kind of like going through different iterations of what we would want this to be. But in essence, we kind of got rooms leading in towards the boss. This is going to be Midas's palace, and then we kind of got these different visual references. What sort of things do we want to see? So these aren't on our images. They're just kind of like just some tells towards what could we reference as a visual that might make some sense. I'm pretty sure this is from The Hobbit, actually, as a kind of reference point here. And then it's like, right, okay, so what could we do as a level design? And these are all, at the moment, being kind of evaluated, I guess, from our side by Dane and myself and a few others. And it's like, okay, well, what could we do differently? Or do we think it just kind of nails it straight away? And we start to give feedback and we start to look at different shaders over the same environment and just see if it kind of like starts to tick what we want it to do. And obviously we'll end in like a boss location once you get through waves of enemies. Okay, then let's look at another kind of like boss environment here. I guess I'll go to the initial visual. What's funny is we iterated on this one a ton. So you can kind of see the initial feel that we were talking about and was like, is it really giving us enough? Does it feel epic enough for a boss location? We started to add in some different kind of like themes to sort of things that we could put in there. And we gave a ton of feedback, honestly. We also looked at other games and said, right, well, for a big boss location, how much is it based on the environment and how much, how imposing should the boss look? So these type of things are really important when you're doing research on how you want to produce your game. You definitely need to look at what else is in the market right now. What do you really like? Yeah, and what really kind of like brings it home for you? And then we start to go back and say, well, let's just find some images that start to resonate with kind of what we want. This one's from Gods of War. This is just probably an AI generated image, I think, but it might not be actually. There is a link down there. What's that? Schrauden.com around what the boss could feel like. Another image here again. What could the boss feel like? And we're just basically running through some different ideas. And then it goes back to Magic Media. And it's like, well, we've got a couple of other ideas here. Maybe we like this, or maybe we like this. And actually we ended up saying, well, we kind of like a merge potentially of the two, but making sure that the colors are in line with what we want. So then I did this kind of like color exploration piece around, if we were going to have this kind of like lava feel to the environment, what about if we mixed, bearing in mind there's a lot of divinity within our game, what about if we kind of mixed the color schemes of what people would expect to see? And we start to get to concepting like this. It's like, okay, we're starting to get closer. And yeah, this feels like it could end up being like an epic stage for a boss encounter. So I guess what I wanted to show you there was just how it goes from, very base level concept to final concepting or work in progress. And all of those different steps along the way, they're super crucial to making sure that you actually land on something that everybody is going to really love. Another really good one here. I loved actually working through this one with Edu and Dane and the team. Again, this is another kind of potential boss environment. And none of these, by the way, are set in stone. It's literally just us, working on ideas. So, big boss in here, Caverns of Cronus as a potential option. And then we start to look at, again, some references of, okay, well, what type of visual do we think would make some sense? This is obviously a reference here for people who know to Loki. And what we liked here was kind of just some of the visual elements in the background, more so than actually trying to copy their environment. It's like some of the visual elements really would make sense if we were doing like a Cronus style boss. And again, just like, the sort of rings that are running around, the color schemes make sense when we're thinking time. And then it's like, damn, now we've suddenly got something which feels like it could really work for us. And again, like Dane gets in there and says, well, let's just do a draw over. Let's make sure that, we've got the right sort of sized environment before we end up kind of like getting to our final concepting. So again, still work in progress, but really cool ideas. So we've got one more I'm going to show you here, which is a very different style of battle. So this one's more aimed at arena style stuff. And again, it's just kind of like an initial template, an initial design, which just gets iterated on. So it's kind of like, this is themed off of like a Stonehenge environment, things like weapons, the Morrigan's Crow, stuff like that. Just all little tells to the environment. And we start to look at how does an arena get built of this sort of style. We look at visual references, which are real. And then we start to get this kind of like iteration done. And super sweet, actually. Like, even at this stage, already looking really cool. And yeah, Dane will then go in and say, well, hold on a minute. Maybe we want to just change it up from what we're thinking here. Basically had a whole bunch of different kind of like notes around, different elements that could be added in. It doesn't necessarily mean that we end up like going in that final direction. A lot of this is just food for thought, really, around, what we could do to make the environments feel cool, but also fit the lore that we're trying to get through the game. So super interesting stuff. Okay, you've seen some of the concepts, you've seen some of the 2D work. Let me show you now how that starts to translate to 3D. And the 3D team do a phenomenal job. So can you guess where we are right now? I've already shown it to you in 2D concepting. This is the Asgard bridge. Yeah, so we're kind of like working our way along it. You can see some of the markings in there. You can see some of the structures. Obviously, there'll be backdrops and some of the assets that have been made separately to this, but this will ultimately be where the heroes kind of like get involved. We've then got, a similar type of feel, but with one of the structures over the top. And again, you can just see the work that goes into all of the assets that start to form the environments. So Asgard is in development. So next one up, we're going to show you Babylon, just a bit of a flyby of the level. This is a lot of different Lego blocks kind of like added together. This one is that kind of like straight line concept because it's one of our earlier designs, but kind of like finishing in this kind of like boss environment that we're going to have. We could show you one of the Aru level designs as well. Again, just like attention to detail, the flag just like flying in the background, some of the different statues that have been built in. You can just see how this works. And then again, this kind of like boss environment at the end with this kind of like scarab on the floor, some of the statues in the background. And yeah, obviously, when you get into that 3D feel, when you're behind your heroes, then it starts to feel super sweet. And then the last one, again, we've kind of seen bits of it today, but the Avalon level, now fully 3D in-game. You see how quickly we start to get some of these assets in-game? It's actually bonkers to me. We've got tons of heroes, and now we're starting to get a decent amount of different environments built out as well. And obviously from here, we then work on refining things like lighting and sort of staging for the different fights that you're going to have. So look, that's going to be it for this video. Hope you enjoyed it. The game is coming along really well. And yeah, hoping to show you some in-game combat, hopefully in the next few weeks, but definitely some cool heroes to be showing you soon as well, including that dragon, which is becoming pretty damn close to being finished. So there you go, guys. Don't forget to come and join the Discord and sub to the channel if you like the content, and I will see you in the next one.